Alrighty, I'm feeling kind of stressed, but whatever, let's go. So, the topic of my speech is the flame reborn, the role of the Olympics in international cohesion, past and present. Oh look, I forgot my pen. Now, to truly understand the impact of the Olympics on international cohesion and connection, we must first delve into its history in classical Greece. Now, the Olympics began its life as a series of small-scale contests of strength between the kings and nobilities of small city-states neighboring each other. However, the spirit of athleticism spread throughout ancient Greece like wildfire until the Olympics was an event in which all adult male citizens, regardless of their nationality in their various city-states, may participate. Why is this significant? I mean, these are like pretty strict quotas, right? Adult male citizens. So why does this matter so much? Because in that time and age, Greece is not as we know it today. It was not a unified nation, but a series of small city-states all at conflict and warring with each other, despite their cultural and spiritual commonalities. Therefore, their warring and conflict and disunity has left them open to attacks and aggression from outside forces, ultimately weakening them in the eyes of the world. The Olympics served not only as a sporting event, but also as one of the first instances of international law that was applicable across the entire region instead of within a single principality. It set an example for a series of expectations, such as not warring during the games or being peaceful with each other and avoiding, assassinating each other during the games, and that laid the groundwork and the framework for later diplomatic efforts and paved the way to the road of a unified Greece which stood strong against Persian invasion. It also served as a beacon of Greek unity and Greek cultural superiority in Eurasia, and it encouraged individual citizens who were allowed to participate in the games to better themselves physically and strengthen the spirit and physicality of the nation. Oh, look, I turned the page early. Okay, you know what? This doesn't matter. Right. In the modern age, what we're looking at is not a continuation of the ancient Greek games, but a revival. A revival which was founded on the same core tenets, but was ultimately drifting apart, as I will tell you later. These three core tenets are as such. First, the facilitation of communication. And second, the exhibition of Western or European cultural values. And third, the promotion of physical self-betterment. In an age when Europe was teetering on the edge of war and mass conflict, the founders of the Olympics, the International Olympics Committee, or IOC, meant for the Olympics to be a bridge and a forum through which powerful nations may communicate without going to war with each other. They tried to realize this ideal through the implementation of a law that has caused them endless grief over the years, the law of amateur participation, which means that only amateurs from each nation are allowed to compete in the Olympic Games. As you can obviously see, this law is very difficult to enforce, but the reason that it was instituted in the first place is because, firstly, the IOC meant for countries to not care too much about medals and avoid nationalism in a sporting field. And secondly, it was meant to encourage amateur athletes to better themselves instead of creating an air of exclusivity in the sporting community, which means that only professional athletes may participate. However, as we soon can see, the Olympics gradually deviated from its original course as a politically neutral institution. Nazi Germany in the 1936 Berlin Olympics was one of the first to attempt to use the Olympics as a propaganda device. They used their video footage of the Olympics as well as the prowess of their Aryan athletes to promote their ideals of national strength and their racial superiority. However, this nefarious agenda was foiled by athlete Jesse Owens Morris, an African American who won the 100-meter sprint against a German contestant. Later on in the days of the USSR attempted to institute their cultural and political superiority by professionally training their athletes and making them compete against less well-trained amateur athletes from other nations. And this has led to international outrage and was one of the reasons for their initial exclusion from the Olympics. Later on, exclusion from the Olympics became more and more common and was used as a political weapon against certain countries and to send a message. For example, after World War II, Axis nations were temporarily excluded from the Olympics to reflect on their actions during the Second World War. However, they were later reinstituted after they made amends to the global community, especially to the United Nations. This seemingly arbitrary system of exclusivity based on political, military, and economic rather than basis of sportsmanship and right law has led many to question whether or not the Olympics is still a neutral forum. Indeed, after these events, many countries would be forcibly excluded from the Olympics as a result of their crimes in the eyes of the international community, or voluntarily refuse to participate in protest of certain matters. To this, what I would like to say is this. This is an age of darkness, when the flame flickers and the torch dims. This is an age of isolation, when the ties between powerful nations are more tenuous than ever, and the fabric of peace that has held together since World War II is beginning to fray. However, it is also an age of hope and an age of unity, not to be found in the mouths of politicians or the military, but to be found in the hearts and the breasts of common people like us. We are unity. We are torchbearers of this darkened age, and in our hearts, the flame of sportsmanship of ancient Athens shines bright. Thank you all.